Sometimes there are moments of stories that you might not fully comprehend when they happen. In well-told stories that have complex writing and deep characters, such moments exist in abundance. Andor in particular contains dozens of these little gems whose beauty you might only fully appreciate when you are replaying the scene in your mind, or rewatching the episode, or like me, going through the story with a fine-toothed comb, because that's kind of what I do here. So, while I love to break down entire stories and whole character arcs in extremely long and detailed video essays, sometimes I just need to stop and appreciate a single scene, a single moment, a single line that has stuck with me ever since I first experienced it. In the case of Andor, that moment is these 3 words.
Who are you?
For context, that line is spoken in the middle of one of Andor's best scenes, the Gorman Massacre. The slowly but inevitably building tension on this planet that possesses the most valuable of resources,
Deep substrate foliated calcite.
has finally reached its boiling point and exploded into mass chaos and death. And Sirill Karn, still reeling from the revelation that the Empire which he serves is willing to destroy Gorman simply to get their precious rock,
They're minerals!
has been wandering around the killing field in shock, his relationship obliterated by his unwillingness to simply follow orders, his mission discarded upon his discovery of that horrific truth, and his entire life's purpose suddenly called into question as he witnesses the rotten fruits of his labor. This massacre is what Sirill had been, unbeknownst to him, working toward from the moment we were reintroduced to him in this season. We witnessed his restrained jubilation as his mission to infiltrate the Gorman front as a double agent began to pan out. We saw him put on a show for his employees and the rebels who he totally didn't know were listening when the ISB raided his office. And we learned, as if we didn't already know it, that taking part in such important work is of paramount importance to the former deputy inspector.
If I say this is the greatest day of my life, does it spoil everything?
It's incredible how well Andor wrote nuance and complexity. Here is a loyal servant of the Galactic Empire, and yet also a brilliant example, even an archetype of the male experience. Sirill is duty-bound, he is persistent, he is resilient, and he seeks to serve a purpose greater than his own well-being. If men happen to not currently possess those traits or mission, we certainly desire to obtain them. Again, we see such a search in Sirill during most of Season 1, following his unceremonious dismissal from his role as Deputy Inspector. Having lost his purpose and meaning, he got back up, ate some cereal, went to work, and eventually found his mission restored and greater than ever. His arc is, in a sense, heroic. He heard the call and dedicated himself to following it, despite his superior telling him to leave it be.
I want you to conjure a suitable accident.
He persisted through unfamiliar territory and various roadblocks.
We don't have presence there, sir.
Is it not under our jurisdiction?
Technically,
He suffered a major setback and resolved not to let it deter him.
fully intend to clear my name and have my record expunged.
And finally, he found his honor restored, his purpose clear, and his life as he desired it better than ever. All he needs now is to capture these outside agitators, return to Coruscant, a hero of the Empire who has made a tangible and significant contribution to galactic peace and justice, and make super sleuth babies with the only bride to ever scare the crap out of everyone on her wedding day. Too bad that dream will be crushed swifter than the Gorman resistance. What is Sirill to do when he realized that the outside agitators were a fabrication invented for his benefit, to ensure his continued loyalty? When he discovers the Empire has a nefarious and destructive intent on this planet? When the love of his life is found to have been hiding the horrific truth from him this entire time? Well, at first he is quite simply lost, shell-shocked, and petrified. But then he catches a glimpse of that which he had just lost. Purpose. More specifically, as if by divine intervention, Sirill finds placed before him the man who started him on this path, the murderer of 2 of Sirill's fellow cops, the criminal responsible for the deaths of several of his own men, and thus his own dismissal and disgrace. It must seem to Sirill as if the Force is saying, remember why you do this. Go get him. And he does. When his newfound purpose has been suddenly and shockingly shattered at his feet, Sirill naturally reverts to an older and more foundational one. He can't be sure anymore who the good guys or the bad guys are on a galactic scale, but he does know that Cassian Andor murdered 2 corporate employees, and that's enough for him to spring into action. Okay, yeah, technically, Cassian only murdered the one, the other was an accident, and Cass was totally justified in headbutting that first guy, but I think we can forgive Sirill for not quite knowing the full truth of the situation. Put any man in his shoes, and I hardly think you'd find even one unwilling to go tackle the man you know beyond any shadow of a doubt is guilty of a serious crime, which Sirill does. And through more luck than skill, Sirill ends up being the one holding the blaster at the end of the scuffle, prompting Cassian to drop a trisyllabic bomb on his head.
Who are you?
The look of pure astonishment on Sirill's face is simply priceless. He had been actively pursuing Cassian Andor for almost 5 years, obsessing over the man, learning everything he could about him and his associates. He flew halfway across the galaxy and risked Dedra Miro throwing him in a cage on the Outer Rim for the slightest chance of finding and accosting his target. Cassian Andor had once meant everything to Sirill, and this sudden reappearance filled in the newfound purposeless void. And yet, his long-sought target doesn't even know who he is. Talk about soul-crushing. And lest you forget, the 2 of them met on Ferrix some 4 or 5 years ago, when Cassian and Luthen snuck up behind an unsuspecting Sirill and very nearly executed him on the spot.
Kill him. I'll kill him.
It's a moment Sirill Karn could never possibly forget. But for Cassian, it is but one of an untold number of such moments. Sirill's face blends with that of every other Imperial grunt that he has held at gunpoint. And that is why this line is so brilliant. Those 3 simple words hold so much meaning for the man who hears them, and simultaneously tell us a great deal about the man who speaks them. For Sirill, this current conflict is deeply personal. His pursuit of Andor defined who he was. The injustice he suffered at Cassian's hand on Ferrix was one he never forgot and forever sought to repay. This man in front of him has been his target, his goal, his nemesis for almost half a decade. But Cassian doesn't recognize him and has absolutely no clue why all of this just happened. Because for our protagonist, the fight against the Empire is just that. A battle against a faceless enemy lacking personality, emotion, or any semblance of humanity.
He was a threat. He was a soldier.
Way back in Season 1, Sirill wasn't anything to Cassian other than a source of information he could use to plan his escape from Ferrix. Which is why, after he had his answer, Cassian shot Sirill dead, except he didn't. Sirill's prey had absolutely nothing to gain and everything to lose from letting this would-be Imperial live. And yet, Andor walked away, leaving the Deputy Inspector unharmed. I imagine that fact is running through Sirill's mind in this moment. He spared me. Even when I was hunting him, even though he didn't know and still doesn't know who I am, he acknowledged my life as something of value. Perhaps I should extend him the same mercy. If Cassian doesn't ask that simple question, I don't think Sirill pauses here. I think he shoots. Instead, upon hearing those 3 words, Sirill asks himself the same question. What am I doing here? Is the man in front of me really just a common murderer? Or does his presence here mean something more? Does he have a mission and purpose? My side is currently slaughtering thousands for a rock. Can I really claim moral superiority here? Was my desire for justice twisted and misguided from the very start? Who am I? Sadly, he never gets to answer that question. Side note, I am absolutely convinced that Tony Gilroy and company took inspiration from The Wire when writing Andor. Sirill's first scene with his boss wanting to juke the stats is straight out of Baltimore. And, well, I won't spoil it, even though the show is over 20 years old, but there is a prominent character in The Wire who gets killed in a manner not dissimilar from Sirill's. And that's it. No fanfare, no dramatic exit, no long goodbye, just left in the dust like all the other fallen of that day. Lost. Alone, forgotten. 3 words. That's all it took to paint this incredible, sorrowful, magnificent, depressing picture. Would that I could be so concise, but alas, I am not. I mean, I don't really want to be. I love going on at length about well-told stories. The only way I can get myself to make a sub 10-minute video is if I make it about a single scene, moment, or line. Hence, this video.
Are you sure about that?
The end of which you have now reached. If you want to see more like this, I promise you there is a lot more. I can do more. No problem. Don't you worry, Expeditioners. Great things are coming in the future. For now, thank you so much for watching. God bless you, and please continue to read, watch, play, and share the stories that live on in our minds, that endure in our hearts, and that forever dwell within our souls.